Hello and welcome to Scale Up India, the Soonicorn Spotlight, brought to you in association with PayU, one of India's leading payment solution providers, where we bring you first-hand growth insights from some of the finest minds from fastest growing startups in the ecosystem. Today, we're here to talk about consumer engagement in an over-marketed world. Now, when you look at consumer engagement, it is one of the most pressing issues faced by most marketers today. And why is that? Because it underscores the entire growth journey of a scale up. Given the rapid market dynamics and customer churn we are seeing today, it's important that growing brands have the right insights to inform their consumer engagement strategies. To discuss how brands can leverage tech to boost engagement, improve customer experience, and maximize ROI for their marketing spends, we have with us Anand Jain, the co-founder and product head at CleverTap, the #1 customer retention platform trusted by over 10,000 global brands. Welcome, Anand. That's quite a lot that CleverTap seems to be doing. But and like I said, that CleverTap is amongst the #1 customer retention platforms trusted by over 10,000 brands. Tell us about your own growth story and what it took you to get here, because you started it also at a time where all of this wasn't as popular as it is today, and that awareness wasn't there. So tell us a bit on that.
Yeah. So firstly, Sindhu and YourStory, thank you for having me here. I'm extremely happy to be here. And I think we realized way back in 2013 and a little bit before that the world is opening up in the sense that there is going to be too many choices to customers. Gone are the days when there used to be one dominant streaming app or one place where you would shop from or one bank that you would bank from, right? There is going to be a lot of choices, and consumers are going to be spoiled silly with choices. They will reduce attention span. And like you mentioned, right, celebrity endorsements or like a full page ad in the newspaper, that effect lasts a very short. That in the end, it's the experience that the brand leaves you with is what you remember. So with that, we set out to kind of solve that problem of like, how do we make sure that you can engage your users better in a memorable way? How do you make sure that you're giving them proactively what they came looking for, and so on and so forth? Reduce friction, and we'll talk about that during this talk, and make it a delightful experience, such that it leads to retention, such that it leads to that getting the people back to your platform again and again, right? No matter what your form factor is, whether it's the app or the website. So that's how we started. We realized that data plays a huge role in this. It's a data-driven world. Data is the new oil, so says the cliched line. But can we use data? Like everyone has data, right? You have data lakes and data warehouses and all sorts of big data and all that. Like, can we actually use it to improve the experience for the user? So with that, we started in 2013, that kind of thesis, and making it available in real time, so that when your customers actually in your store or on your app or on your website, you can actually use the data you have on them or off them to change the experience for them. And used right, this could do wonders for you. So our own journey of growth has been for the last, we've been at it for 8 years now. This is our 8th year that's running. We've managed to secure good investors who backed us from the very early days, Axel, Tiger, and Sequoia Capital. We have some very good brands that we work with, some of the fastest brands globally, and we've just have good growth in terms of revenue for the last 5 years since we started monetizing the platform. So yeah, can't complain. It's been good, and we operate out of six key locations. India, Southeast Asia, the Middle East, Europe, Latin America, and North America.
How would you advise startups to leverage customer behavior analytics? You were talking about, how data, everyone has data, but how do you use that data? Audience segmentation, cross-channel messaging to reduce uninstalls and improve retention. How do you advise startups that they leverage all of this? How does it work for them?
Correct. I think the foundation has to be good, granular, high fidelity data. So platforms like CleverTap, what we let you do is, one, And if you think of it as a cycle, right? So it starts with like, let's first observe or collect data on the user, right? We help with collecting first party data. So if you're on an e-commerce site, like, you could instrument your app or your website to start collecting data. What are the products people are looking at? Who are the new users? Who are the old repeat users? Who's transacting? Who's not buying? Who's spending a ton of time on my site, and so on and so forth, right? Once you start collecting data, you can, use CleverTap to bubble up insights, like, to create this,
Yeah.
to look at like user behaviors, of where are people dropping off, like, what are the most popular products people are looking at but not buying, what are the
Mm.
products that people, just look once and they buy, right? And so on and so forth, right? The average order value, all those things. And this is e-commerce, but you can do this for streaming apps, like, what are the most popular content pieces that people view, what time of the day, and so on and so forth, right? You could then, using these insights, you can then segment users, group them into multiple groups, and we provide a plethora of these segmentation kind of kinds, if you will. There are automated segmentation. For example, RFM is a very popular way to segment your users. There is recency, frequency, and the monetary value. You can plot all the users on that and say, okay, who are my champions, people who we've seen recently, and we also see very, very frequently, and are high spenders. And then depending upon, the segment you want to kind of work with, you can run automation, which means crafting user journeys, saying that, okay, we are going to send a nudge, or we are going to, change the way this person experiences my app, uh,
Mm.
or send them a message, etc. Like, these nudges, or interventions, if you will. And then based on how they react, kind of the circle comes back into, like, let's collect data about, whether they interacted with it or not. So the whole thing becomes data driven. It's a cycle that completes with every interaction that the person does. So I think
Right.
startups who want to compete, like, instead of trying to go flashy and, kind of run ads on television, etc., like, need to get a lot more data driven, because this data
Yeah.
is from where you can get a lot of insights, and it reward you, like, forever.
Yeah, it reduces your marketing spends also, like, your TVC and all of that are really expensive propositions as
Yeah,
well.
yeah. I'd say just one thing here. It actually, reduce, it may not be the right word here, but now which channels are
Yeah,
working, right? And you
absolutely.
can double down on the channels that work,
Yeah.
the channels not only that got you the users, but gave you the most profitable set of people, right, of
Mm.
users, or the right segment that you wanted to target. All of this is data, like, I mean, this is, the year 2021, soon 2022. I don't have to go preach data to the world, but yeah, how do you use your leverage the data, how do you use it, makes a ton of difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, when you look at it, how can brands boost engagement across the different touch points available? And what is a good strategy to have in cases like this?
I think, before engagement, you have to kind of broadly plot where your users are, how are they using you or consuming your products and services, right? So, and a user does not really care what kind of form factor they're using. For example, if you purchase subscription for a subscription app, like, music streaming, you might do it on the phone when you are, say, commuting, or you might, do this on your desktop when you are at home or at work, like, and listening to music, and then, going about doing your work. uh, the way you kind of make it more effective is to plot this user journey, figure out, like, various form factors that the person is using a product at, and then saying, okay, well, let me, one, form a holistic picture of the user, and two, do the right intervention in form of automations. So we call this automations, or we call it journeys, actually, where you can create a user journey, a set of nudges. For example, if there is a new user, and you figured out that this person listens to music almost every day, or maybe, like, for more than 50 minutes a day, but is not subscribed, has not never bought subscription, a timely nudge, like, or using predictions in CleverTap, you could actually say, hey, of the people that have not purchased subscriptions, show me this set of people that will buy subscriptions by the end of next week.
Mm.
And with this predictive stuff, you can actually now work backwards, figure out, like, okay, people who are most likely to purchase, least likely to purchase, or moderately likely to purchase, and then
Yeah,
run an intervention and engagement with them.
right. You know, How can brands leverage its payments experience to improve customer experience? Because I think payments is a very, very significant part of journey for a consumer as well, right? Without any glitches, if the payment runs smoothly, the experience is good. So how can brands do that?
Right. Like think about this, right? We all make several payments a day. Payment is where like it's the heart of commerce. It's the intersection of, finally when you've decided to buy a product or to subscribe to something, you pay with your money, right? And that's where the reality, that's the moment of truth. There are two parts here, right? Like where there are friction, for example, in payments, right? Like there is, there are failed payments. They happen all the time. And then there is friction in making the payment. Uh, Last year, like brands lost about 120 billion dollars
Wow.
of the just because payments failed, and payments fail all the time, right? There could be different reasons. It could be a consumer reason or it could be a brand reason, right? The payment gateway did not work, my credit card expired, or I don't have enough credit, or I just couldn't understand, like how to use the damn thing. I think while a failed transaction, so if you look at payment failures, that might seem like a short term thing, like okay, this person will try again and they will do their thing, but over a long term, like you risk losing or severing ties with the customer themselves, right? Because they will go to some other place, they will go figure out, like who else has better payment failure, has lower payment failure rates, better payment process and all that, right? So that's that. I think there has to be an analysis, like end to end, like okay, someone actually chose to buy a product, subscribe to something, came all the way to the payment, kind of went to the payment flow, and then it did not result in a payment. Like can we kind of figure out, can we kind of again go about this in a very data oriented way, figure out the reasons and solve them one by one, or maybe run the right interventions. The other case is slightly more interesting, which is the friction in payments. There are all sorts of things, like for example, how many clicks does it take to go through the payment flow? uh, can the brand not remember my favorite mode of payment? Can they not, like let me transact right now? And maybe if for example, if you've seen historically that this particular person buys most of their products through an EMI, instead of paying for it upfront, all of it, like you could maybe offer them BNPL, right? Like you buy now and you pay later, or you show them the right set of discounts and rewards and coupons. Bottom line is you have to reduce friction at every step of the way to make sure that this person goes through the transaction, and kind of collate that back to the data, figure out, like whether it results in like better LTV for you as a brand.
Anand, I just wanted to understand, how can smart segmentation help the payment processes, maximize transactions, optimize ROI on marketing spends?
I think segmentation is the heart of everything data driven. Segmentation is the heart of what we do at CleverTap for our customers. There are several ways to divide up users. Like one of the ways is, how can you intelligently segment people based on, like I mentioned, the recency and the frequency of their usage. Those are the loyal people, right? For example, if you've seen me recently but you have not seen me frequently, maybe there's a way you can intervene. They can figure out, like hey, what causes this person to come back? Or if you've seen me frequently but you've not seen me for the last few days or
Mm.
weeks, that something is amiss. This person's probably gone away to competition or somewhere else, right? And then you could kind of nudge the user. The other way to think about this is things like intent-based segmentation or predictive segmentation. Can you predict with a certain degree of confidence, with the amount of data you have? You can use products like CleverTap to predict, like if this person is going to come back or this user is going to transact with a specific amount, with a specific product, etc. Once you run these predictions, you can then work backwards and then send nudges or interventions to the user to use these multiple engagement channels, whether it's WhatsApp or push notifications, SMSs, emails, and then see the efficacy of each of these channels, right? Can we get the person to come back, and what channel works for which user? And once you've nailed that, you can, you're not pestering the user anymore, right? You're making sure
Right.
that you're kind of like
Right.
intervening in the right time, the right channel to the right person through the right medium.
How can real time and audience behavior analytics help enhance engagement experience?
Yeah. I think the world's moved largely to real time. We used to get news in the newspaper. Now I get my startup news from Your Story. It's like live, happens by the minute. You know, food delivery has become real time. Movie watching has become real time. Dating has become real time. Education, health tech, you name it, right? Now, these
Yeah.
people, these users, like, are in the app or on the website trying to consume your product. If you are, for example, in the education industry or you are in the health industry, there is a person who's live right now and they're using your product.
Yeah.
With the power of real-time data, like this data streams into a product like CleverTap, you got to see the dashboard, figure out, okay, this is clearly where my users are struggling, and use that as an intervention mechanism. Like you can actually get a lot of insight just by looking at real-time data. For example, if let me take one more example here. Say you are a ride-hailing app,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and someone's at the airport right now, and they launch your app, and it's been like 30 seconds and they've not booked a cab ride. Now that is very interesting, right? Because you generally don't take like 10 minutes to book a cab ride. Either you book it or you don't, or you go to competition, or you figure
Yeah.
out some other way of,
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
alternative means of transportation. So this is where real time comes in. And this is, by the way, as I said, food delivery. If you've opened up a food delivery app and you won't spend hours looking at it, like, you probably make a decision very quickly or you will not. And that's where brands need to know what's going on a real-time basis. They need to segment people on real-time basis. People who launched my app and were looking at options, probably added something to the cart. It's been like in a few minutes, they've not actually booked it. Let me run an intervention. I think that intervention is very important, right? Or if people have completed their flow, like the happy path of their flow, like, they've bought things that they wanted to buy, etc., then you don't have to send them anything. So not everything results in some sort of a nudge or a notification. You have to be very intelligent about it. And with things like kind of CleverTap, you can figure out, like, whether these nudges are causing more damage to you or not, whether
Yeah.
you should intervene or not. And if your sources of data are separate, like, your user feed, if you will, or user data comes into a different product than the engagement product, that stitch is never real time. With like what you had mentioned as the introduction for CleverTap, like, with this unified data stack, this one source of truth, you can
Mm.
actually see the intervention coming back, like, whether this person, when you sent a notification, did they react to it or not? Where in the user journey is this person, and did they move ahead with the nudge that you gave them or not?
Right.
So
Right.
all the decision making becomes real time as well.
Yeah. As we talk about real time, personalization also becomes important. I mean, it's becoming equally important. Everyone wants something that's unique to them and for them. And personalization at scale is crucial for better customer experiences. How can you connect data in a meaningful way to personalize messages?
Oh, this is going to be very exciting. So there is a lot you can do. For example, depending upon the weather in a certain geography. So there is data. Okay, let me just back up a little bit. There is data that is within the app, or that originates from your touch points, right? If you went to a physical store and you browsed around like an aisle of products, and in the end you added 3 products to the shopping cart, and you went to the checkout, through the checkout process, there are 3 products that you bought, right? Like that is one point of data that the brand has about you. But then there is external data, right? What is external data? External data could be like, hey, your flight's running late, or there is a storm right now, like, there's a like snow in New York, and these kind of things, right? So depending upon external factors, or there's a price drop for like a popular brand of car that you wanted to buy, right? They drop prices or they increase prices, they did something, right, that happened externally. You
Mm.
can use that external information to send, again, you can use this to send the right message to the right user. Things like, if I'll give you a very good example, some of our customers use this. If you are within like a kilometer of a popular, say, beverage chain, and it's cold outside, you might receive a message saying that, hey, Sindhu, wouldn't it be great if you could go get coffee at this, like, the weather is like 15 degrees, time for coffee.
Oh,
Now
wow.
that would be very good, as opposed to if it's hot and humid out there and it's bang in the afternoon, and you get a message saying that, hey, time for a coffee. Now, sure, you like coffee, but not when you're you're
I think
yes, yes. So this
it
same
was.
message to the different person, and this is the level of personalization I'm talking about here. It's not like greeting you by first name, or showing you 3 products that you last looked at. Like, it's not that. Like, the level of personalization the world has moved on. Like, as consumers, we expect a lot more personalized stuff. We in fact expect proactive stuff, right? So for example, if I'm, and this is true story, uh, I was looking for a Nike shoe a few days ago, and well, thankfully, CleverTap customers, so they sent me recommendations, right, for other shoes from the same brand, but in the similar price range that I would have missed, searching by myself. And actually, I bought the shoe 3 days ago. The point is, like, if it's not just general spam, it's not the products they want to push, it's the products that the consumer might end up buying. The likelihood of buying is high, so let's show them that product.
Right. My last question for you, Anand. It's important for scale ups to be built at speed, security, and scale. How would you advise leaders to approach this?
Yeah, these are three very deep topics. Security being, let's tackle one by one. Like, let's talk about security. I think it's imperative to earn users' trust, especially when you're in the payment industry, especially when you're in a place where money moves hands.
Yeah.
We need to inspire trust and security, right? One of our themes is trust and reliability. We are doubling down on that. But it's not just enough to show like some sort of a certificate, like, hey, we are compliant, etc. Like, you actually need to earn it. And trust means not just that the place is secure, but it's also reliable. That means every time I come here to transact, my transaction goes through, I have visibility into when my order is going to be shipped, and so on and so forth, right? So all sorts of communication, like, you map out the communication for the user, and it kind of works beautifully. And the user now knows at every step of the way what is happening, and that inspires trust. So that's one thing. Let's talk about scale. If you're popular, you will attract scale. If you're a big brand, you will attract scale. And big brands don't become big brands, by just because they were born big, right? Everyone starts small and they become big, and that's true for everyone out there, right? Whether you are Amazon or whether you are like someone else, right? So the process of scale is very important, right? The user does not really care, like, how many warehouses you got, what is the square feet of your office. For them, the scale is the kind of services you offer, right? Or the breadth of the products that you offer. To me, as a consumer, when I go to a streaming app, like, scale to me is like, how many movie titles they have and which one can I watch tonight. So that's important, right? And I think at scale, everything breaks. At scale, like, things go for a toss. Things are very simple. If there are, if you have 10 items to sell and the user has to select 1 out of 10. But at scale, these things like, which item are you going to recommend? Which item is the person going to like search for? And each person is different. They're from different geographies. They have different kind of, gender. They're in different age groups and preferences and all sorts of things. So how do you serve users at scale? It's a very important factor. And I think using the foundation of data, it becomes easier. In fact, it becomes a lot easier if you're built on this foundation of solid data. You can actually leverage data, a lot of this in real time, to serve the users better, instead of trying to show every conceivable product, like, rows and rows full of stuff. Using digital mediums, you can actually show them the top 10 products they're more likely to be interested in. And now to the user, it's not about scale. It's about like, okay, well, this brand actually gave me what I came looking for. I think the last thing is speed. As I said, the world's moving real time. It's more real time than it was. And it's continued directionally. It's going to be like that. So can you do it in the moment? We have this concept called as mobile moments, which is, depending upon the brand you are, etc., could be anywhere from 5 seconds to like 50 seconds. And if you do not surface the results, if you do not give me what I came looking for, I'll be distracted. I'll go somewhere else, which means I'm on a site. I want to order food, and within 5 seconds, like, if I do not get what I came looking for, my WhatsApp, I'll get a message on WhatsApp. There might be something on Twitter, and I'll just, I'll get a notification. I'll move on to the next thing, and I'll forget what I came looking for. So speed, and if you put all of this together, like, scale and speed is very important if you want to serve your users right.
Thank you, Anand. That was extremely insightful and practical and first-hand insights and perspectives you gave us.
Thank you, Sindhu, for having me. These were some very good questions. It's always good to talk about data and and scale and personalization and all those things. So I enjoyed our conversation.
Please stay tuned for more such insightful videos with Scale Up India, the Soonicorn Spotlight series brought to you by PayU.